Well, happy Saturday, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good day, and I sure hope and pray that things are getting better down in the South, especially in Texas. And a big hello to everybody down there, especially Susan Lynn, who is dealing with some difficulties in her abode with no water and had some freezing issues as well. So I send everybody my love and my best. It's a good day to be happy otherwise. So I've got some things coming up within the week or so. A good friend of mine named Peggy Starr will be coming to talk with me about her very long and interesting spiritual journey that will probably take place in several different um, tapes that we'll do, interviews that we'll do. I think you'll love Miss Peggy. I met her about 8 or 10 years ago, and we have kept in touch. And I met up with her in person, and she now lives back east in, I believe, Wisconsin. But she's got some interesting stories to tell us, and she's been around for a while, a little bit longer than me, like by 20 years or so. So today I would like to talk a little bit more about the Lenormand cards and talk about the next group of them, which is Lenormand cards 5 through 8. And I have some interesting things to say about them. The first one is the tree. This is number 5. If you were looking at how it corresponds to regular cards, it would be the 7 of Hearts. It's a neutral quality card, but I don't know about you. If I look at a tree, most of the time, unless it's deteriorating in some way, I think of health and growth and longevity. Um, you can also say that it is the woods, a forest. We also have our ancestral tree that we have if we're doing any kind of genealogy. So it could be something to do with family tree. And it could be that if you were looking at a timing of it, it would be that it would take a while because a tree doesn't grow very fast. All right. I'm reminded of my trip with my husband several years ago into the redwoods, the redlands, and all the beautiful trees that have been there for scores and scores of years, and how wonderful and magnificent they were, reaching right up to heaven, and the smell, just gorgeous. But those redwoods, if you ever get a chance to go see them, so valuable. I also want to say that with regard to longevity, whichever way you want to say it, I saw a picture a couple of days ago, I believe it was on Instagram, of a turtle, and it was a tortoise, a big tortoise, and they checked into its age, and they estimated that he was 289 years old or so, that he had been born in 1832. And when I think of trees and what they've quote seen, um, they've grown up around all kinds of historical things. But when I think about that tortoise and how big it is and how still vibrant it is at that age, I think to myself, what things has that tortoise seen? Amazing. So anyway, trees. I have a very huge affinity for trees. I love the way that they the branches go. I love the beautiful flowering of the seasons and the colors, and then the falling of the leaves, all of them representing different parts of life as well. So if I got in a tree, I would look at it as a very positive card, even though it is a neutral card. It doesn't really tell us one way or another. Okay, the next one is the clouds. Let's see if you can make sure you see it. They're clouds. The playing card that this has an affinity to is the King of Clubs. It is a very negative card. It's not the worst card in the deck, but it's more of a negative card. Why do you suppose so? What would make you think so? This one may tell a better story. As you can see, those are pretty bad. That would be the black rain clouds, or maybe warning of thunder and lightning. When you see clouds, then you know that there is confusion or inability to see clearly, stormy weather coming up, or stormy relationships. But clouds don't last forever. And so, it could be that they're very short term, but maybe there's bad weather ahead. Maybe the clouds are made by smoke. I mean, if you were thinking in a Native American term, the clouds would be puffs of smoke that would be there. Fog, haze, anything that is unclear, you cannot see ahead. You're not able to see ahead of what's coming, or that something is ahead that might be coming, that isn't going to be, it's probably going to be quick, but not so pleasant. So if you take this and we posit it beside the tree, like we did the other day, oops, other way, left to right, you'll see that this one here talks about health and growth and longevity and family and so on and so forth. And if you put it here, you might say, well, there seems to be some confusion or clarity needed around the health or the growth of you or someone else that you've asked the question about. And the card to the left of it shows what is becoming clearer. What is becoming clearer is this card, and this is that you need to have patience, or maybe you need to stop being so lazy. It just depends. As I said, you're meshing the cards together, and when you're doing that, you're reading the first one, the first one, with the second one to make the meaning. All right, the next one is something that a lot of people could be afraid of, but I want to tell you that it's not necessarily the worst card in the deck, but a lot of people do not like snakes, and that's what this is. I don't know if it's because they're slimy or there's some fear that surrounds them, but the snake is number 7. And if somebody is a snake or a snake in the grass, it means they're hidden, they're kind of sinister. They might be dangerous, venomous. Maybe they have bad aspects to them that want to create a problem for you. The other thing it could be is that maybe you're having trouble with your electrical wires, or you may be having trouble with pipes or plumbing, depending upon your question that you have. But lies and enemies and treachery and danger. So this is a card that you would say, okay, beside my clouds, I'm getting clarity on the danger that's ahead. Okay, so there might be somebody that has lots of doubt and lots of fear, and it's clouding their idea. Remember, we say that too. We say this might cloud your ability to see something. It might cloud your ability to see the deceit or to see the treachery or the danger. You're not looking for it. You're not being open to the possibility that it's there. And it also could represent the other woman or the other man, if there was a person that was a snake in the grass, so to speak, that was interfering in a relationship. So it's going to depend on what it is next to. That's what the Lenormand cards do. And that's what makes it so fascinating to look at them, because you could have the same cards, but the order that you pull them is where the message is going to be most important. Okay. Finally, we have a card that a lot of people would feel very uncomfortable with, much like they do when they see the death card in the tarot. The death card does not always mean you're going to die. Neither does the coffin. Oops. Make sure you can see it. The colorful ones are always the nicest, but a lot of people don't like all kinds of color. They just want a basic one that is plain. So the coffin could be considered a negative card, of course. It's the death or end of something, okay? it's a defeat, it's a loss, it's anxiety. It might be that it's telling you you just need to rest. You need to rest. You don't feel good. Or you're stagnating. Or maybe, are you feeling okay? You might want to take a rest so that you don't get sick. And it could be a box, a bed, a drawer, an underground, or an enclosed case. It tends to have a negative reaction, and of course, you can understand why it would, because it does have a negative reaction in our society. We're always fearful of anything that has to do with any kind of death. So, if we took the snake and it was beside the coffin, we're going to read the snake first, and we're going to say, there might be um, danger or treachery or problems that will require you to have rest, that will require you to feel defeated or feel a loss. A loss can be something more than of life. A loss can be you lost your job, you lost a friend, you lost your zest for life, you lost your health, whatever. You could lose a ring or a so again, these Lenormand cards are something that need to be um, stood side by side, so to speak, and you want to just work with them individually. What I would suggest is it's really hard to read for yourself. I really do believe that. At the same time, I think it's great to practice. And you could ask a question, so, you could put in your mind what kind of question that you want. For instance, I just recently had a review from a job, and I asked the question, is this review going to turn out well? And I got an answer, and we'll see how it comes out. But I felt like I got very much clarity. There is something about the Lenormand cards that bring a lot of clarity in a minimal amount of understanding. In other words, you can learn to read these cards and feel totally comfortable with them almost immediately if you can work with them every day, asking some questions, trying to figure out some things that have been happening. So again, this particular colorful card is the Healing Light Lenormand. The other ones that I've used are the Lenormand Learning cards, and they also have this particular group of cards has tarot as well, if that's what you're really interested in. Again, everybody's different. Everybody wants um, to figure out what it is that they would like to use, even if you're just using them for yourself. Then you've got an opportunity to learn from them and do some healing with that. So the last thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to pull a card from my favorite deck, and it is called a Sacred Traveler card. Has nothing to do with Lenormand. Has a lot to do with how I'm feeling. Has a lot to do with messages. Oracle cards are those kind of cards that you can pull and you can feel fabulous about because they just immediately seem to get to the heart of the matter. So I'm just going to quickly um, shuffle them a bit. And these cards are called Sacred Traveler cards, and they're by Denise Linn. I love them. They're my favorite cards. I pull one every day if I can, just to let me know what it is I need to work on for the day. I tend to look at the images and I listen to the messages, and I feel, fairly comfortable with what those messages entail. And then at the end of the day, of course, I'm a big journaler, so I'll write all this down. At the end of the day, I'll tend to look at it and say, did that happen today or not? So I'm going to pull one here, and it's called Narrow Pathway. Tread thoughtfully. And what I'm seeing in the card is I am seeing, if you can see it or not, up here. I don't know. Did any of you see that guy that went across the Grand Canyon on a tightrope a couple of years ago. Oh my God, I watched the whole thing in real time, and all the time I was worried he was going to fall, and he didn't. He made it all the way across, and he's from that family that does high wire stuff. So this is what that reminds me of. It reminds me that sometimes we have a completely narrow pathway to where we're going, and that we need to consider all that is below us as well as what is above us. Here we have some rocks and we have a lot of clouds. What did we just say about clouds? Don't know for it what's underneath those clouds. Don't know what's the impetus for this narrow pathway. And there's a tree that sticks out as well, and I can see that too. I was listening to the book Letting Go today by David Hawkins, and it's really was really good, and it was talking about courage. And one of the stories that the man told was that his friend was afraid to go to the Grand Canyon and stand even a block from the edge. He was just so terrified. And over time, he gained a lot of courage and was able to stand within 6 feet of the edge of the Grand Canyon. And I was also reminded of people taking selfies on those ledges of the Grand Canyon, and how some people have fallen off because, they just say, well, let's get a selfie here with everybody, and somebody backs up and falls off the mountain. What they aren't doing is paying attention. And we need to pay attention to the narrow pathway. We need to pay attention to all pathways, but we need to pay attention to the narrow pathway, because sometimes that narrow pathway will take us to places we've never been before. But if we're not cautious, we can fall. We can injure ourselves if we're not thinking about what it is that we're doing. If we feel either too um, I don't want to say you can't be trustworthy for yourself, but at times our feet aren't always flat on the ground, or we miss the rocks and we trip. So, in looking at this, it says tread thoughtfully. Thoughtfully means that you are thinking about where you're going while you're going there, and you're making a conscious decision that where you will tread, you must be careful. I'll leave you with that today and send you lots of love from the Pacific Northwest. Until next time, thanks so much. Namaste.